She gave it all to save her bankrupt billionaire husband, but then she discovered this dark secret. A thrill raced through the air as Lila stood in the dimly lit kitchen, her mind swirling with unanswered questions. The day had been long, every tick of the clock a reminder of the ticking time bomb that was their financial ruin. Just weeks ago, Jake, her lavish-spending husband, had been the king of the corporate jungle, bubbling with charisma and ideas. Now his empire crumbled like a sandcastle washed away by the waves. Was it all just a charade? Was everything she thought about him just a well-spun web of lies? With a deep breath, Lila pushed open the creaky door to his home office, a place adorned with trophies of past victories that felt more like tombstones of a lost legacy. Papers lay scattered across the mahogany desk, each sheet heavy with the weight of a sinking ship. As she picked up one detailed report, her pulse quickened. The numbers didn't add up. Profit margins had plummeted. Debt spiraled into a monstrous shadow, creeping closer and closer like a predator waiting to strike. And then her eyes fell upon an odd metallic object wedged under a pile of documents. A flash drive. What secrets did it guard? Was it a lifeline or a noose tightening around their necks? As night fell, the setting sun painted eerie shadows on the walls, and Lila felt the first tendrils of fear curling around her stomach. She couldn't shake off the sense that she was being watched. A chill skittered down her spine when a loud crash echoed from the family room, a stark contrast to the silence that typically enveloped their home. The fear simmered beneath her skin as she approached, heart pounding, hoping against hope it was just the wind. But as she entered the room, the sight before her sent a shiver through her. A figure cloaked in darkness stood near the fireplace, their breaths synchronized in a strange electric rhythm, silent stretching and snapping like a taut wire. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as Lila opened her mouth to cry out, the figure stepped into the flickering light. It was Jake, but he looked different. Shadows framed his face, making him appear like a ghost. The frantic energy he usually radiated was replaced by an unsettling calm. "You shouldn't have come here," he murmured, his voice low and fevered, eyes darting around like he was assessing his next move. What was going on behind those dark, swirling depths? Was he hiding something even darker than their financial downfall? And as Lila's world began to spiral, she couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Just what had Jake been up to in their darkest hour? The questions gnawed at her, taunting her very sanity as the shadows closed in tight. Lila's heart pounded wildly in her chest as she struggled to find her voice. The icy specter of dread gnawed at her insides. "Jake, what is going on?" she finally managed, her voice barely more than a whisper. His eyes flickered nervously, darting to the windows, as if the night itself held threats lurking in the dark. Just go back, Lila." His words were jagged, laced with panic. "Please." But she stood rooted to the spot, a part of her torn between fear and the desperate need to understand. "Why? What are you hiding?" Her question hung heavily in the air, swirling with the dust motes illuminated by the faint glow of the fire. The walls seemed to pulse as anxiety filled the room. Jake swallowed hard, his expression twisting. "You wouldn't understand," he said, lifting a hand as if to shoo her away. But Lila wasn't going anywhere. The flash drive in the office loomed large in her mind. What had it revealed? "Try me," she pressed, stepping closer. Shadows danced around the room, echoing her rising dread. If he was in trouble, real trouble, she might be the only person who could help him. She could swallow her fear just to help him pull back from the edge. He turned away, the tension in his shoulders stiffening like a coiling spring. "It's not about the money." Each word was a preface to a revelation that screamed just under the surface. A dark secret that churned like storm clouds overhead. "What do you mean?" Her voice trembled, unable to hide the fear gripping her heart. Straining to hold on to hope, she asked, "Is it something we can fix?" "That's just it," he murmured, finally casting a glance at her that seemed almost apologetic. "I can't fix this. I'm being followed." The weight of his confession struck her like a punch to the gut. Followed. She echoed, breathless. By who? People I owe money. They want repayment in more than just cash, Jake said, his face paling under the flickering lights. What? Lila felt a cold sweat prick her skin. Was it just debt? Or was there something more sinister? A wild sprawl of images flooded her mind, threatening figures, dark alleys, the gnashing noise of an economic underbelly. And the flash drive? She asked, her voice now tinged with urgency. I thought it was just business documents, he confessed. But when I looked closer, it holds evidence of everything. The tremor in his voice betrayed him. Not just financial records. Compromising files that could ruin lives, Lila. My life. A heavy silence fell, the air thick with unsaid horrors. You're in way over your head. How did it get this far? Lila felt her legs weaken. I made mistakes. His face was a mix of shame and fear. I wanted to save the company by any means necessary, and now they have leverage over me. Her mind raced. How could she have not seen it? The facade of success had thin cracks, and now it all crumbled under the weight of Jake's revelations. We need to go, she urged, her voice sharp. But Jake shook his head, his expression darkening. They won't stop until they have what they want, he warned, frustration spearing through his words. We're both in this now. A sudden crash jolted them from their tense standoff, this time louder and closer, the front door swinging open, light flooding the room. Jake! A voice shouted from the darkness, a figure appearing abruptly at the threshold. Get down! In an instant, fear turned molten, filling the air with an unmistakable urgency. Lila's heart raced as she glanced at Jake, who was twisting to hide the truth in his eyes. The shadows were closing in, and whatever lay beyond that door now would either save them or seal their fate. What awaited them in the unforgiving night? And how far would Lila go to protect the man whose secrets had buried them both? Lila's breath hitched as the figure stepped into the light. It was a man, his face hooded and tense, eyes flickering with urgency. The moment stretched, seemingly endless. What are you waiting for? Move! He shouted, slicing through the tension. Who are you? Lila gasped, instinctively inching closer to Jake. Her heart thudded against her ribcage, each beat laced with fear. An ally if you want to get out of here alive. He snapped before Lila could react. Jake seized her wrist and pulled her down just as gunfire erupted outside. The scuffling sound of footsteps echoed like thunder against her ears. Adrenaline surged through her veins, sharp and electric. Stay low, Jake hissed, his grip firm around her as they crouched behind the armchair. She could feel the frantic rhythm of his heart, the palpable fear radiating from him, deeper than she ever imagined. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered urgently, searching his eyes for answers. I thought I could handle it, he replied, his voice trembling. I thought I could fix this. The man at the door cursed under his breath, darting a glance toward the windows. We need to move. They're coming this way. Lila's voice faltered, confusion swirling in her mind. Are you really in that much danger? Is it just your business? Or is there something worse? The moment stretched as Jake contemplated his next words. There is something I need to show you. But it's not just money anymore. This is bigger than we realized. The front door slammed open again, and a shadow lurked in the doorway, brandishing a weapon. Sweat trickled down Lila's back as panic seized her, tightening like a noose. Now, the stranger shouted, hauling Jake to his feet. I'll cover you, just run. What about you? Lila cried, eyes darting between the two men. Just go. I'll be right behind you. With no more time for deliberation, Jake grabbed Lila's hand, her nerves afire as they bolted for the back of the house. She could hear footsteps thundering down the hall, a cacophony of shouts and chaos. Why would anyone go this far? Lila gasped as they stumbled into the kitchen. Is it the flash drive? You said it ruins lives. They want to destroy me, he said, his voice taut with desperation. That drive has names, dates, all the people involved in this mess. Not just me. It's a web, Lila, and I'm caught in it. She barely registered the grim urgency when another gunshot rang out, sending shockwaves through her. We need to get out of here. Panic-stricken, she pushed against the fear trapping her. Jake caught her eye, his gaze softened for a split second, revealing a man drowning in his mistakes. I'm sorry, Lila. I dragged you into this. Your life is at stake because of my choices. And just like that, something cracked inside her. Instead of fear, an energy coiled in her chest. She wasn't just any woman. She was someone who could fight back. With renewed resolve, Lila whispered, "What do we do now?" "Trust me, but I can't promise safety," Jake replied, gripping her hand tightly. They slipped through the kitchen door, the outside world looming with shadows and echoes of uncertainty. The night felt alive, as if threatening to consume them whole. Every rustle in the wind whispered warnings, each step thrummed with urgency. They emerged into the cool night air, adrenaline firing with each inhale. It was dark, shrouded in danger, and hesitation washed over Lila. "Where do we go?" she questioned, scanning the night. "We head to my office. It's south, the safest place right now." But a flash of headlights pierced the dark, a vehicle careening down the street. The dread wrapped around them, squeezing tighter. "They're coming," she said. Jake turned to her just as the vehicle skidded to a stop. No turning back now. What lay ahead? Would they outrun the ghosts of Jake's past? Or would the shadows finally claim them both? The night was far from over, and the real danger was just beginning. Lila's heart raced, a drumbeat of fear and adrenaline clamoring for attention. She looked at Jake, his face a mask of determination, yet shadows danced in his eyes. The vehicle's headlights cast a harsh glow on the asphalt, illuminating the dark path ahead and the monsters that lurked in it. "They'll be looking for you." Jake dropped his voice, every word laced with urgency. "We need to blend in, act normal." Act normal? How could anyone act normal when gunfire filled the air and danger skulked in the shadows? Before Lila could respond, the engine of the vehicle roared to life again. The door swung open and a figure stepped out, silhouetted against the glaring lights. It was a man, his silhouette broad, menacing. Lila instinctively tightened her grip on Jake's hand, ready to bolt in the other direction, but Jake pulled her close. "Stay behind me," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. The stranger moved closer, his steps echoing against the pavement. As he approached, the light illuminated his face's sharp features, a hard jawline, and eyes that seemed to cut right through them like knives. "You two look lost," he said, the corners of his mouth curling in a sardonic smile. "Just passing through," Jake replied smoothly, though Lila could hear the tension in his voice. "Sure you are." The man's gaze flicked over them, sharp and calculating. "There are people looking for you. Dangerous people. Best get out of the open." "Who are you?" Lila blurted out, fear lacing her voice. If he knew who they were, how deep did this rabbit hole go? "Call me Trent," he replied, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "And I can help you. The question is, are you willing to trust anyone at this point?" Lila shared a glance with Jake, uncertainty pooling between them. Could they trust him? In this mad scramble for survival, every choice felt like a perilous gamble. But they couldn't keep running forever. "Why should we trust you?" Jake challenged, his voice low yet firm. "Because," Trent replied, "I know what they want. I've been in your shoes. I can show you a way out, but you have to move with me. Right now." Lila's heart raced anew. The shadows were creeping closer, and the car that first stopped was still there, headlights shining like a cursed beacon. "Let us go," Jake said. He was resolute, making the decision for both of them. "I'll follow you," he said to Trent. As they moved, crouching low, Lila felt her instincts kicking in. They darted past the vehicle, every fiber of her being screaming to escape. Their hurried footsteps crunched against the gravel as they approached a back alley. The world felt surreal, a twisted nightmare that refused to let go. She could hear the distant sounds of chaos, the shouts, the sirens, but they faded into an eerie backdrop. Trent led them to a narrow door, half hidden behind a dumpster. "In here." He pulled it open, beckoning them inside. Jake hesitated, looking back at the street, scanning for danger. "We don't have a choice." They slipped into the dimly lit room. It smelled of damp and despair, the air thick with tension. "Now tell me everything." Trent's expression shifted, sharpening into something serious. "Why do they want you? What's south on that flash drive?" As Lila opened her mouth to explain, her heart pounded louder than ever. Memories flashed before her eyes, the threats, the envelopes marked with ominous words. Jake held her hand steady, grounding her even as secrets writhed and threatened to spill out. But before she could speak, the door slammed shut behind them, plunging them into darkness. "Keep quiet," Trent's voice shot through the thickening gloom. Suddenly, the room reverberated with the sound of pounding footsteps, and Lila's stomach dropped. Were they already too late? The only thing worse than the danger outside was what they were about to uncover in that dim room if they survived the night. What other secrets lay hidden, waiting to shatter their world once more? Lila gasped, her breath quickening in the suffocating darkness. The pounding footsteps grew louder, shaking the walls around them. The door trembled as something slammed against it from the outside, the vibrations echoing through Lila's bones. Jake's grip on her hand tightened, his eyes wide and fearful. "Trent!" Jake shouted in a whisper, urgency dripping from his voice. "Shoo! They'll hear you." Trent hissed, his face now mere inches from Lila's. His expression was a mixture of desperation and authority. The footsteps stopped, replaced by a low murmuring that slipped through the cracks of the world outside. The conversation felt so close that Lila could almost pick out words, her anxiety blurring the edges of her vision. "Can't let them escape. The flash drive must not get out. They were being hunted." The realization swept through Lila like ice water. Trent's eyes darted nervously toward the door, and she could see his jaw clenching, the muscles tightening with evident tension. "What do we do?" Lila whispered, her voice shaking. "We wait," Trent said, but the unease in his tone left little comfort. Jake leaned in closer, his breath hot against her ear. "Lila, if this gets too dangerous, we need to make a run for it. No matter what." She felt a swell of determination. The chaos outside was nothing compared to the storm brewing inside of her. But then the whispers turned into harsh voices, accusing and menacing, amplifying the urgency of their predicament. "Search everywhere. They can't have gotten far," ordered a gruff voice. "Well, we know they went this way," another voice interrupted, and then heavy footsteps approached. Lila's heart raced, a chaotic drumbeat that felt as if it would burst from her chest. Jake's eyes locked onto hers, and in that fleeting moment, she could see his fear mirrored back. They were truly trapped. "Everything hinges on that flash drive, doesn't it?" Trent whispered, breaking the silence. "If they get it, they won." Jake interrupted fiercely, a spark igniting within him. "We need to protect it at all costs." Lila felt the weight of that decision settle in her stomach. What they were holding onto was more than just a piece of technology, it was the key to salvation. A silence fell over the room, punctuated only by the muffled shouts outside. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the other side of the door, sending Lila's heart into a frenzy. "Are they coming?" she gasped. Trent nodded sharply, his expression grave. "Get ready, both of you. Time to move now." Before Lila could respond, he pushed open a hidden panel in the wall, exposing a dark tunnel. "This leads to the alley behind the building," he urged. "We can escape but must move fast." Jake pulled Lila close, fear swirling in his eyes. "Go. We can't stay here." They stumbled into the tunnel, the darkness swallowing them whole. The air was damp and smelled of earth. Every footfall echoed ominously as they hurried deeper into the unknown. "Why are they after us?" Lila managed to ask, out of breath. "Because you hold something they can't afford to lose," Trent replied, his voice echoing ominously through the tight space. As they moved forward, the tunnel narrowed, brushing against Lila's shoulders. Panic surged within her. What lay ahead? Were they truly safe? With each echoing footstep, the pounding in her chest matched the chaos above. Just when Lila thought they were caught in an endless void, they rounded a corner and emerged into a dimly lit street. The cool night air hit them, crisp and shocking, but the sense of danger quickly washed over her as sounds of pursuit dwindled. She turned back to Trent, questions pressing on her tongue, but before she could speak, a flash of movement caught her eye down the street. Figures rounded the corner, dark silhouettes against the glow of streetlights. They were hunting again. "Run!" Jake shouted, his voice pulling her back into reality. Lila sprinted down the street, fear propelling her forward. The stakes had just reached a new level, and she could feel that familiar twisting knot in her stomach. Every choice had consequences, especially now. But as they scattered into the night, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that the flash drive wasn't just a tool for survival, it was a prophecy that could unravel everything. What other secrets were tangled within their web of paranoia? Would the truth offer liberation, or would it only lead to deeper darkness? Lila's lungs burned as she sprinted, the biting chill of the night wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. Jake's hand was still tightly clasped in hers, their feet pounding the pavement as they raced past dimly lit buildings that seemed to leer at them from the shadows. She heard the faint echoes of footsteps behind them, an ominous reminder that they weren't safe yet. "Trent, where do we go?" she shouted over her shoulder, hearing the panic rising in her voice. "I saw a parked car 2 blocks down. We can use it to get away," he yelled back, urgency lacing his tone. Every second felt like an eternity, but the three of them pushed on, adrenaline powering them forward. The street was empty, every window silent and dark, as if the city itself held its breath. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from a nearby alleyway, the sound of metal striking concrete. Jake turned sharply towards it, his posture tense. "What was that?" "Just keep moving," Trent urged, pulling Lila closer. "We can't stop." But it was too late. 3 figures appeared at the end of the street, their silhouettes stark against the pale glow of the streetlights. They were hunting dogs let loose on a scent, and Lila felt her heart plummet. "Into the alley," Trent commanded, pointing to a narrow space between 2 buildings. Without thinking, Lila and Jake followed, ducking into the darkened passage as Trent led the way. The walls were damp, and her hands brushed against the gritty surface, a reminder of the filth surrounding them. No sooner had they entered the alley than a shout erupted from the street. "They went this way. Cut them off." The pounding of feet raced toward them, echoing down the narrow passage like thunder. Shadows loomed over the wall beside them, dark and hungry. Lila's stomach twisted in knots. Fear clawed at her throat, almost choking her. "Hide," Trent whispered fiercely, pushing them behind a stack of crates that smelled faintly of rot. The 3 of them huddled low, breath held as the footsteps drew closer, growing louder and louder. She could feel Jake's heartbeat pounding through her palm, their fear mingling in the air. The voices came into earshot again, and Lila leaned in closer to Trent to hear. "Check every corner. They can't get far." The gruff voice was followed by laughter that chilled her to her core, a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Then silence. For a heartbeat they stayed crouched behind the crates, the menace of their pursuers filling the alley. Lila wondered if they could hear her breathing. She didn't dare to inhale. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. One of the figures, the leader maybe, was walking toward the crates, flashlight grazing over the ground. A tense silence swept over the group as they did their best to blend in with the shadows, hearts racing. Lila's mind raced as she recalled the flash drive, a weapon. Yes, but what did it really contain? Nothing felt secure or clear anymore. The flash of light swept closer, illuminating the entrance of the alley, making her heart stop. "They were found. Please," she whispered under her breath, hoping the universe would hear her desperate plea. Just then, a loud crash erupted behind them, a dumpster tipping over and clattering to the ground. Jake and Trent exchanged quick glances. "Go," Trent hissed, shoving Lila toward the back of the alley. In an instant they sprinted deeper into the shadows, their hearts thrumming like wild drums. They could not risk being caught. Escape was their only prayer. Suddenly Lila stopped dead in her tracks as a shocking realization hit her. "Wait, what if this involves more than just us? What if they're involved with—" "We can't think about that, Lila. Keep moving," Jake urged fervently, grabbing her wrist. But the thought hung heavy in the air. There was a bigger game here, and they were unwitting players in it. As they pressed onward, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that they were diving into deeper waters. The truth felt tantalizingly close yet terrifyingly out of reach. With every step farther into the unknown, one question burned bright in her mind. Who was really pulling the strings, and why did they want the flash drive so desperately? Hope hung in the balance, tangled with the shadows of secrets yet to be unveiled. Their escape was merely the beginning, but what awaited them at the end of this dark road? The narrow alley twisted like a labyrinth, shadows flickering in the dim light as Lila, Jake, and Trent pushed ahead, breathless and terrified. Every corner they turned felt like a trap waiting to spring. Lila felt the weight of the flash drive in her pocket, heavy, secretive, and possibly the key to everything they were running from. "Where now?" Jake gasped, glancing over his shoulder as they reached a T-junction in the alley. The footsteps had faded, but dread still hung in the air. "This way," Trent whispered, pointing left. "We should reach the main street soon." They darted down the path, and Lila couldn't shake the notion that they were being watched. Her instincts screamed at her. It felt as though invisible eyes were tracing their movements, scrutinizing every step. They emerged onto a larger street, the gray dawn creeping over the horizon, color bleeding into the sky. A flicker of hope surged through her. They were on more public ground now. But the feeling was quickly quashed as she spotted a vehicle idling near the curb despite the morning light. A sense of unease settled deep in her gut. It felt wrong, too clean amidst the decay of the alleyway they had just fled. "Is that the car you saw?" Lila asked, focus sharpening. "Yeah, but Trent hesitated, scanning the area. "Something doesn't feel right." A figure suddenly stepped out from the back of the car. A large man with a menacing gait. Lila's breath caught in her throat, recognition hitting her like a freight train. "Is that?" Jake began, but Lila cut him off, dragging him away before he could finish. "Run," she urged, adrenaline surging once more. They darted into the street, Lila's heart hammering against her ribs. The man called out, his voice booming and authoritative. "Stop. You're not going anywhere." Lila picked up her pace, glancing back to see the man sprinting after them. His face was twisted with determination. This wasn't just some hired muscle, this was personal. "Why are they doing this? What do they want?" Jake panted, fear clawing at his voice. "I don't know," Lila shouted back, focusing on the sound of their footsteps, on the pulse of dread echoed within her. They dashed through a crosswalk, the faint sounds of car horns and morning chatter melding into a chaotic backdrop. City life was oblivious to their fear, the contrast amplifying their isolation. Seeing a nearby cafe, Lila grabbed Jake's arm, veering toward it. "In there. We can lose them in the crowd." The bells above the door jingled as they stumbled inside, breathless. The warm smell of coffee mixed with baked goods provided a brief, tantalizing comfort. Trent led them to a corner booth. They squeezed in, hearts racing, backs against the wall, eyes darting to the entrance. Outside, the man paused, scanning the cafe windows like a predator sniffing out its prey. Lila felt her insides twist. "What's his connection to us?" Jake leaned in, voice low. "We didn't just stumble into something. There has to be a reason." As Lila stared at him, a horrifying thought crept into her mind. The flash drive, was it tied to something deeper than she had realized? The man's silhouette suddenly darkened the entrance, his shadow stretching into the cafe. "We saw you," he shouted, voice dripping with menace. "You can't hide forever." Lila's stomach dropped. Panic surged through her veins. Who had they really crossed? This wasn't some random chase. This was a warning. "Let us get out the back," Trent hissed, his eyes flicking towards the service area. "Wait," Lila breathed, her mind racing. "What if we set a trap? We need to find out what they want." Before she could finish, Jake's phone buzzed violently against the table. Trembling, he glanced at the screen and went pale. "It's my dad. He says it's urgent. I have to answer." "Not now, Jake," Lila whispered harshly, panicking. But it was too late. Jake pressed the phone to his ear. "Dad? What's wrong?" The color drained from his face as he listened, a mix of horror and disbelief flashing in his eyes. "What do you mean they know? What did you tell them?" Lila's heart raced. The implications were staggering, and her world tilted on its axis. Who were they truly up against? And what line had Jake's father crossed? Before she could question him further, the cafe door swung open again, and the man stepped inside, scanning the room under the harsh fluorescent lights. They had mere seconds before he would discover them. "Jake, we need to go right now," Lila shouted, her pulse pounding in her ears. As they prepared to escape, dread washed over Lila again. What new chaos lay in wait outside? With the stakes higher than ever, she wondered if truth would come at a price they couldn't afford. What had Jake's father gotten them into? And could they survive whatever storm was about to break? The noise from the cafe blurred into a chaotic hum as Lila's pulse quickened. The man was nearing, and the air thickened with imminent dread. Jake's phone call had cast a shadow over everything, deepening the pit of anxiety in her stomach. "Jake, focus," Lila hissed, grabbing him by the shoulders. "We can't stick around to figure this out. We have to move." "I can't leave, I have to understand what's going on first." Jake's eyes were wide, panic lacing his voice. In that moment Lila saw how fear was consuming him, but they didn't have time for questions. Outside, the man was making his way to the counter, his eyes scanning every corner of the cafe. No more seconds left to waste. Stay close, Lila commanded, casting a quick glance around. We're going to the back. Stay behind me. Trent nodded and he moved beside her, while Jake reluctantly followed. They ducked into the narrow corridor leading to the restrooms, hearts pounding collectively. As they hurried, Lila felt the sweat trickling down her back. The heavy thud of footsteps echoed from the cafe, a constant reminder of their pursuer. They reached the end of the corridor, and Lila pushed against the swinging door that led outside. On 3 she breathed, adrenaline coursing through her veins. 1, 2 the door creaked open, but just as they were about to leap into the fresh air, the cafe door burst open. The man emerged, eyes glinting with fury, and Lila's heart plummeted. Thought you could sneak away, huh? He growled, his voice slicing through the early morning light. Go! Lila screamed, shoving Trent and Jake out the door. She dashed after them, fear electrifying every nerve. They stumbled into an alley about 10 feet away, sprawling brick walls closing in on them as they scrambled through. Ragged breaths filled the alley, mixing with the distant sounds of sirens and bustling pedestrians. What now? Trent gasped, scrambling to catch his breath. Lila's mind raced. We need to get lost but find a place to think. There. That door. She pointed towards an unmarked entrance, barely visible in the dim light. They dove inside, slamming the door behind them. The room was dark, lit only by the flickering neon lights from a nearby sign. It smelled damp like old paper and dust. Lila's eyes adjusted to the shadows, her heart still pounding in her ears. Where are we? Jake whispered, his voice trembling. A storage room, I think, Lila replied, her senses on high alert. Suddenly, Jake's phone buzzed again, the sound jarring in the stillness. He fumbled with it, fear etching deeper lines into his face. It's my dad again. He glanced up, his voice quaking. Should I answer? Lila shook her head sharply. We can't risk it. If they're tracking us, answering could put us in danger. But what if he's in trouble? He might have important information. Right now we can't trust anyone. Not even your dad. She was trying to keep her voice steady, but doubt gnawed at her. The moment hung heavy before Jake finally silenced the phone, his features strained. They stood in an uneasy triangle, each waiting for the other to say something that could cut through the palpable tension. Guys, Trent started, glancing nervously at the door. We can't stay in here indefinitely. We need a plan. Lila nodded, the flash drive a weight in her pocket that felt heavier than before. We need to figure out what we're dealing with. The longer we wait, the worse it'll get. Just then the door rattled. The menacing voice sliced through the tension. I know you're in there. You can only run for so long. A cold wave washed over Lila. There was nowhere left to hide. What do we do? Jake's eyes were frantic. Lila locked eyes with him, her heart racing. We face him. Together. Just as she prepared to make her move, the door slammed open, and the figure stood there towering, the shadows masking his twisted grin. Thought you could hide from me? He taunted, stepping forward. A primal surge of fear rippled through Lila, but beneath it, a flicker of resolve ignited. They weren't just running anymore, they were going to fight back. With her heart hammering, she braced herself for the confrontation. What would they uncover in the chaos? And who else was pulling the strings behind the scenes? As the man advanced, Lila realized they had stepped into a game far darker than they ever expected. What lay ahead would demand everything they had. And more. Lila's breath caught in her throat, a fragile deception hanging over them. The man loomed, an unsettling shadow in the half-lit room. The overwhelming scent of mildew seemed to thicken, wrapping around them like a threatening fog. Who are you? Lila demanded, her voice trembling as she fought the tide of fear. The flickering lights above them cast eerie shadows over his features, exposing streaks of malice and a twisted satisfaction. Names don't matter, he sneered, stepping closer, his heavy boots thudding against the wooden floor. What matters is the little game you all just entered. Jake, trembling by her side, whispered, What game? The man chuckled, a low, menacing sound that echoed in the damp room. The kind that ends with you losing everything. Or winning. Depending on how well you play. Lila struggled to suppress the panicking thrum beneath her skin. What do you want from us? she demanded, taking a step forward despite every instinct screaming at her to retreat. Your little mission. You think you know what you have? That flash drive, his grin widened. It holds secrets that could bring down empires. I need you to hand it over. Simple as that. No way, Trent barked, puffing out his chest, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. We're not giving you anything. The man's expression darkened. A predator toying with its prey. You're already in over your heads, kids. Hand it over, and maybe I won't unleash the chaos that follows your every move. Lila felt the pulse quicken within her. What chaos? She thought of the messages, the calls that had started with Jake's father but had soon spiraled out of control. Fear wormed its way into her mind, twisting the truth. The weight of the flash drive in her pocket felt like a ticking time bomb. Why should we trust you? Lila asked, feigning courage. What do you really want? He leaned down closer, and his eyes glimmered like shards of glass. What I want, little girl, is to level the playing field. You hold the key to that. He straightened up, the playful menace returning. But if you want to know the truth, let us just say I have a lot of friends who don't like it much when their plans are disrupted. My friends are always a phone call away. Jake blurted out, his bravado fading as he spoke. The man's smile turned grim. You think they care? You're in a deeper mess than you realize. Your father, Lila? You think he's the pillar of righteousness? He's part of this too. A stunned silence enveloped the room. Lila's chest tightened. I know everything, the man continued. And I promise you, the moment I lay my eyes on that drive, the world you know will crumble to dust. Trent stepped forward defensively, fists clenched. You're bluffing. Nothing is going to happen. The man laughed, a chilling sound. Oh, I'm not bluffing. You haven't seen the darkness yet. But you will. Suddenly, the fluorescent lights flickered violently as the air grew thick with tension. Lila felt it, an electric surge that ran through the room, prickling goosebumps along her skin. If he was right now, what'll it be? He pressed, taking another step closer. Give me the drive and I'll make sure you leave with your lives intact. Otherwise, well, I can't promise that. Lila's thoughts raced as she weighed their options. The flash drive contained secrets that could upend everything. But the stakes had never been higher. We won't let you hurt anyone, Trent declared, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his fear. Too late for that, the man hissed, and without warning, the lights went out completely. They were plunged into darkness, and the heavy sound of the man's laugh echoed from the corner, wrapping around them like chains. Swallowing hard, Lila felt the underlying panic surge in her chest. Where were they? What would happen next? In that shrouded silence, the breath of the unknown loomed over them, holding secrets darker than night itself. As they fumbled in the dark, fear coiling tightly around them, Lila's heart raced. Would they stand together against the darkness? Or would it consume them? The choice was coming, and nothing would stay the same. The room swirled in pitch blackness, Lila's heart pounding deafeningly against her chest. The man's laughter danced around her ears, ringing with twisted satisfaction. Make your choice, kids. He taunted, voice echoing menacingly as shadows merged into a suffocating abyss. Jake's hand clutched hers tightly, panic trailing in his wake. We can't stay in here. His voice wavered, filled with the thin edge of desperation. Trent, we need a plan. Lila whispered urgently, squinting into the dark, trying to process the reality surrounding them. What are we up against? There's only one way out forward, Trent murmured, grappling with a hint of resolve. But we need to move now. Before they could respond, the lights flickered back to life, fluorescent bulbs buzzing innocently, a contrast to the menacing air that swallowed the room. The man's expression was twisted, full of malicious anticipation. Time us up, kids. Drop the drive or face the music. Lila shouted, her voice shaky yet defiant. The people outside, the danger, the chaos, it had to mean something more. Jake leaned closer, eyes ablaze with determination. We won't give it to you. Not now, not ever. The man's laughter faded, and a sharp edge formed in his gaze. So be it. Let us see how far you're willing to go. He stepped back, signaling someone outside. Lila felt a swell of dread as shouts erupted from the street, footsteps pounding toward their storage room. We need to run now, Trent shouted urgently, pushing Jake and Lila forward. They barreled toward the back door, propelled by fear and willpower, their hearts racing against the cadence of their impending doom. Bursting outside, Lila blinked against the sharp daylight, adrenaline igniting every sense. They stumbled onto a back alley, the commotion behind them reverberating like thunder. "Which way?" Jake gasped, scanning their surroundings frantically. "Left," Trent blurted, pointing. "We can reach the main street and lose them in the crowd." As they dashed forward, Lila felt that weight, the flash drive bearing down on her, a heavy anchor in a sea of uncertainty. They reached a corner, and without hesitation they turned. A scream pierced the air behind them. A series of rapid gunshots rang out. Terror gripped them, each footfall a beat pulling them deeper into panic. Lila's heart thudded painfully. They needed to vanish, to be anyone but themselves in the thrumming chaos of the city. They skittered into a busy thoroughfare, the sounds of normalcy swirling around them like a deceptive cocoon. "Blend in," Trent urged, watching over his shoulder. Lila felt the throng of pedestrians shield her like a protective barrier, but her breath still quickened with each passing moment. "Just keep walking. Don't draw attention," Jake murmured. Suddenly, Jake's phone blared, setting both horror and urgency in motion. They recoiled, eyes wide with panic. "Off," Lila hissed, grabbing at the device and slapping it into silence. But it was too late. The man's shape loomed among the crowd, eyes narrowed in fury, and Lila could see the shadow of danger reaching toward them. "They've found us," Jake gasped, spinning back toward Trent. "What do we do?" Trent's jaw set, a fire igniting in his eyes. "We can't just run. We need to confront this. Lila, we got to find out what's south on that flash drive." The world around them blurred, but Lila felt an ember of courage light up inside her. What would they uncover if they faced the truth together? "You're right," she breathed, resolve hardening her voice. "But we need to do it strategically. If we can get in touch with someone who knows what to do." Just then, Trent's phone buzzed violently. He answered, leaving them hanging on the edge of reassurance. "What? You've got information? Where are you?" Lila caught Jake's eye, a sense of solidarity washing over them. "I'll meet you there. Just hold on," Trent whispered, shutting off the phone, a spark of determination igniting in his gaze. "We need to go now." They wove through the crowd, keeping low and hoping they wouldn't draw attention. The city buzzed obliviously to their peril, the weight of secrets pulling them deeper into a choreographed dance of danger. As they slipped into a nearby cafe, the buzz of activity provided a moment of camouflage. Jake shoved against the wall, panting hard, and Lila felt the rush of adrenaline begin to cool, thoughts racing as she glanced toward Trent. "Did you contact someone?" she urged, forcing calm into her voice. "Yeah, there's a drop point where we can hand off the drive safely. It's risky, but it might help us turn the tide." He took a deep breath. "If we do this, we're in the thick of it, Lila." "Whatever it takes," she replied fiercely. The bond that began with fear now felt like a promise of loyalty, each word sealing their commitment to fight, to uncover the truth that loomed like an impending storm. "Let us move then." Jake nodded, determination pushing his fear aside. The stakes had never been higher. As they stepped out into the burgeoning day, Lila felt that rush. It was now or never. Every secret threaded into this twisted mess. Every life intertwined. It was time to unravel it all. With the weight of the flash drive nestled in her pocket heavy with threats and revelations, they stepped forward as one. The shadows lurked, the threat still palpable, but Lila refused to falter. They were writing their own story now, and together they would face the grips of chaos head-on. As they sped down the street, Lila whispered to the universe a silent vow: whatever lay ahead, they would fight for the truth and reclaim their lives. But the path wouldn't be easy. Every corner held risks, and the chase had only just begun. With a newfound sense of purpose, they plunged into the fray, ready to confront the shadows looming in wait. This was it, a battle for survival that would unfold like thunder, revealing everything in its wake, beneath the surface of this cutthroat game they never wanted to play. Little did they know, the darkness would soon reveal its true face. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss what's next. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep our community strong. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories about this shocking conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to be in on the action. Your support means everything. Let us do this.